Now you may think that I'm completely crazy, but Larry and Lawrie are perhaps the strongest and most versatile brawlers in this update, and in this video I'm going to show you why as I pit these brawlers against every other brawler in Brawl Stars. Now first off, Larry and Lawrie, who I'm just going to call the twins from here on out, are epic artillery brawlers, which means they're going to be pretty easy to obtain. Now they will be coming into the game in early February, but you can pick them up a week early with an early access deal for an in-app purchase. Now if you do decide to purchase them early or get anything from the shop, I would be ever grateful if you use code LEX before any purchases. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help me keep making content on this channel. Now before we hop into the interactions, it's important to note that Larry is the main brawler that you will be controlling. When he uses his super, which by the way only takes 5 explosions to get, he calls his twin Lawrie out and he will attack the closest enemy. Now while Larry is a thrower whose shots explode twice, dealing 1680 damage with each explosion, Lawrie is a shotgunner who fires off 2 rounds of shots with a total of 8 projectiles in 2 bursts. This means he has a total max damage of 4,800 damage per shot, but for these interactions, we're going to focus on Larry, but I will show you both in detail as we move along. But let's get this party started with perhaps the most surprising matchup, the tanks. Now normally a thrower is going to get absolutely wrecked by any tank that finds their way close to him. However, Larry, well, he's not your normal thrower. He has 6,800 hit points at max level, and that makes him the tankiest thrower in the game. Not only does he have the hit points, but he has the damage to back it up, as we can see here that as a thrower, at point blank range, he takes down Rosa. Just let that sink in for a bit. He beat Rosa toe to toe. Yeah. Now, of course, there's brawlers like Bull who can simply overpower any brawler that comes close, and Daryl does the same thing, but Larry isn't going to go down without a fight. He took out a lot of their hit points thanks to his very strong main attack. Now, against Meg, you'll notice that he has very little problem taking out the mech, but struggles with the reload speed once he runs out of shots. But this is where his second star power, called Protocol Assist, comes in handy. When Larry calls out his twin and is in range of him, he will gain back 30% of his ammo whenever Lawrie deals any damage. Now this is a crazy good star power, as it gives Larry a ton of ammo back and will help him during those moments of, well, no ammo. Now Larry's doing pretty well, and this is surprising in itself, but what if I told you that it's going to get even worse for the tank? You see, in a real game, the twins have some very interesting counterplay. Their first gadget, called Order Swap, allows Larry to swap weapons with Lawrie, turning Larry into a shotgunner and Lawrie into a thrower. And even if Lawrie dies, you will still keep that shotgun unless you die yourself. So you can turn from a thrower into a shotgunner with a single press of the button, and that shotgun deals a ton of damage, being able to pump out over 14,000 damage with a full ammo bar. Combine that with his second star power, and that's enough to send Frank running for the hills. So Larry is a really good thrower, but how does he compare to the other ones? Well, in 3 words, really freaking good. Sprout used to be the highest hit point thrower. Now it's Larry. Dynamite used to be the highest damage thrower, and now that's Larry. And while his max range isn't as far as Grom's is, he deals more damage. And while he isn't as annoying as Tick is with control, he's for sure more deadly. I think that all around, Larry might be the most well-rounded thrower in the game. Not only can he deal damage, but he can actually defend himself well, and what I haven't told you is that he can heal himself too. With his second gadget, called Order Fall Back, the twins rush at each other, healing both of them for 33% of their maximum hit points. Now, using this gadget means you cannot swap weapons, but if you're sure that you want to be a thrower for the entire game, then this is a great gadget. And if you want to defend Larry even more, you can use his first star power, called Protocol Protect. With this, while Lawrie is in range, all damage gets transferred to Larry's twin rather than himself. Now, while I think his first gadget and his second star power are better overall, these ain't bad. And speaking of bad, it's always a bad time when an assassin attacks a thrower, right? Well, now as a thrower, seeing an assassin come your way is always a scary thing, but it might not be as bad if you're playing Lawrie. If you watched yesterday's video, you saw just how good Miko is at destroying people in a 1v1 situation, but here, he gets his banana stolen. Now, Crow does some good damage, but he still goes down. And even Buzz can't out-damage Lawrie at point-blank range. Now, Cordelius and Lawrie are basically a tie, and Fang wins, but only by a split second. Edgar, even with his fisticuffs, can't handle the explosions, and Stu, well, he made it close, but not close enough. However, Sam does have enough left in the tank to get a win, and Mortis, well, Mortis just destroys him. He does this because this is one of Larry's few weaknesses as a thrower. His initial shot will hit and deal damage, but if the opponent is moving fast enough, they can avoid the second explosion. And this will be the key to winning here as an assassin. You need to make sure that you have the upper hand when going in for the kill, and if you do, well, then you'll be just fine, but you'll need to watch out because if Lawrie has his super and calls his brother into the fight, then all bets are off. Not only will it be more damage, but he can just swap weapons, and then you've just went toe-to-toe with a shotgunner, which, of course, is going to be a bad day. Now, with the damage dealers here, you're going to see a wide variety of brawlers. Some are able to take Lawrie down, and some fall woefully short. But almost every fight here, regardless whether they win or not, Lawrie puts up one heck of a fight. And while that might not be surprising for other damage dealers, I'll remind you that Lawrie is primarily a thrower. Throwers have never really been in a position where they're able to go toe-to-toe with a brawler that packs as much punch as these brawlers do. They've traditionally been brawlers who hide behind walls, and unless you have some way of getting to them, they'll be able to control an entire section of the map. This script has now been flipped with the twins. Not only will they still fill that role as a traditional thrower, and a very strong one at that, but also going in on them might not be the best thing for you to do. These twin brawlers dominate so many of these 1v1 interactions, and yes, I'm fully aware that these are indeed just base level interactions and they don't simulate an actual game where game mode, maps, and most importantly skill come into play, but as a reference for what can happen if all things are equal, you should be very afraid of what the twins can do. And as a thrower, Larry's just going to control a large area with his range and his second explosion. And then he'll be able to use his super for both offense and defense, making him rather hard to approach. Other throwers are probably the best counter to Lawrie, but he does have another weakness that I'll explain as he faces off against the Marksman. Now, throwers won't naturally want to be up close and personal, but honestly, Lawrie might be the most aggro thrower ever. As you can see against these long-range brawlers like Piper, Larry's thrown shots take a long time to reach the target. His projectile speed is pretty darn slow, but when he's targeting someone up close, well, they explode right away and they can deal massive amounts of damage. Now, against some brawlers like Nani, well, it doesn't matter too much as she just flat out overpowers him, but other brawlers with similar projectile speed, it's going to be a moot point. The takeaway here is that Lawrie can go aggro. He has no problem running up and getting in your face, which is the opposite of what throwers usually want to do. He can even make those opportunities for himself by using his twin to soak up the damage and distract while he moves around. So in a game, while Marksmen clearly have an advantage with a wide open map, it's not an overwhelming one, as Lawrie has the tools to deal with, well, almost any situation, which is what makes him such a versatile brawler. So while the matchups against the Marksman may be a toss-up depending on the map and the mode, you can't just write it off here if you're the long-range brawler, because he has the health to take some shots and the tools to make you pay if you miss any. Now, the support brawlers usually don't fare the best when facing off against someone who can put out the damage like the twins, as you can clearly see. Poco broke a guitar string, and Byron, well, it's Byron in these tests. I mean, what are you going to do? Doug, however, shows that he has the strength, as does Pam, as they have the healing and the health to make it work out. But these other brawlers find it very hard to get through his health, as they themselves don't usually put out the most damage, nor do they normally have a lot of health, and that's not changing in this situation. Now, in a game, I actually like some of these matchups. Gray is always dangerous to throwers as he can pick his moments and port in and confirm the kill. Max is fast enough to avoid that second explosion, and Ruffs can break open some walls to help out his team. Now that's not to say that it's going to be an easy matchup though. Just as these brawlers have the abilities to do so, so do the twins. If Gray ports in and Lawrie calls forth Lawrie, then what? I mean, Ruffs may be able to break open a wall for his team, but he himself is going to have a hard time finishing the job. All in all, I mean, it's not a horrible matchup, but it's not like a great one either. Now, our last group of brawlers to face off against the twins are the controllers. Now, there are a few brawlers here who have the hit points and the damage to deal with Lawrie. Bo's able to just win, and Mr. P and Lawrie go toe-to-toe. Now, M's in that max damage range overpowers him, and Griff can take out almost any brawler this close up. But aside from these few brawlers, controllers don't have like an insane amount of hit points, nor do they have the damage, and certainly not enough to deal with a brawler that can deal over 10,000 damage in the span of a second or so. Charlie's nerf hit her hard, and Jessie, she's just not built for this kind of matchup. Sandy has good health, but very little damage, and Gene, well, he doesn't want to find himself in this situation either. Bottom line is that for most of these brawlers, they will want to play a more positional game, relying on dodging shots or using their supers to deal with the twins. For the most part, these brawlers are going to want to play it safe, or else they might end up with a shotgunner in their face. So then, you have seen the twins, Lawrie and Lawrie, versus every brawler in Brawl Stars. Are they going to be any good? Honestly, I think that this brawler, or brawlers, are the most versatile and well-rounded set of this update. They have the ability to throw over walls, take out tanks, defend themselves comfortably, and put pressure on the opposing team with ease. So, yeah, they're good. They're very good. I can't think of any mode that they're not going to be good at so long as the map is acceptable. Any place that a thrower will remotely work, they're going to work too, but they have ability to get played in places that a traditional thrower will not. They have the ability to get up in your face with a shotgun and a thrower raining down on you at the same time while getting back ammo and dealing absurd amounts of damage. I absolutely love these brawlers, and they're going to be very hard to stop. Just like you won't be able to stop me from showing off another brawler tomorrow.